Coach Steve Donahue was an assistant at Penn. You were coming out of high school.
He was. Well, was he at Penn when I was?
1990.
Yeah, he was, right. So he joined when I was a freshman, I think. So Fran O'Hanlon was an assistant, but so Steve did not, no. But I've known him since then, since I was a freshman in
What
college.
is his reputation in Philadelphia?
Excellent, great guy, big family. Loves basketball. Coach Beeline actually used to go. They'd have what they call skull sessions at the Palestra, and I think Coach Beeline was famous for having this big, huge board with all the pieces on it, a basketball board, and he has a great reputation. Obviously took Cornell to the Sweet 16. Great, just an outstanding person and great coach.
What do you make of all the points in the A10 for sure, and nationally? You guys are averaging 84, and that's 5th or 6th.
Is that right?
In college.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't know enough about the other teams, to be honest with you, John. I don't know that I could answer that. I would have thought certainly we would be in the top 2 or 3. So, I know the things that we're trying to do, but I wouldn't necessarily know what that is. I think probably, they've made a lot of rule changes maybe 10, 12 years ago on the physicality, and I think had it not been for Virginia being the best team in the country for a long time, or one of the best teams, and their defensive style, those statistics would have jumped out that their scoring was up. And of course here, and because they had an impact nationally, I think it wasn't maybe quite as noticed. So I don't know to speak to the current points per game of other teams, but I do know that I think the game is, I think there has been an emphasis for a long time now of trying to make the game more fluid and just kind of try to bring to light the skill level and the athletic ability of the players rather than the overly physical style of play.
Do you recall what the Spiders did in the first season?
I would imagine it was in the low 50s would be my 52. Yeah. 52. Yeah, that's. Well, thank God they changed the rules.
Jalen Robinson is sort of a different kind of player in that he's not a post man, but not really a wing either. Could you talk about his development and perhaps how he's come on?
Yes. Well, Jalen is someone that, as soon as I saw him in high school, I really, really wanted to try to have him be here. He's obviously an explosive athlete, but he also has a good sense for the game. I think he could be a very, very, very good defender and unique. I think he'd be a very, very good offensive player, but unique. I think that, a lot of times basketball teams, it seems they want to be called positionless, but basketball players want to have a position. And so he's a little bit a jack of all trades. I think by the time he's by later this year and next year when he's a finished product, I think that he'll, bring the ball up the court a lot and do a lot of different things because he can pass and knows what's going on and does have this tremendous athletic ability and strength that can really help him fight, the quickness to be able to play with perimeter players and the strength and athleticism to play with bigger players. So I think he has a chance to be a pretty unique player for us.
Do you pull younger players aside in this transfer portal era to hang with it, worry, committed to you, we see your future playing, want to see over you, that sort of thing? Do you have those discussions?
Yes, we certainly have those discussions. I mean, I wouldn't say that we would use the expression "we won't recruit over you," but yeah, we would. It's a huge change. As if you go to college as a regular student who's not playing sports, it's a big adjustment. Let alone if you're playing basketball at this level and the time demands and the competitive demands that you have. So, yes, we try to talk to them and reassure them. Just that it takes time, and we've had. I think we've had the Rookie of the Year 3 times, and I can remember 150 terrible days for each of those guys during their first year. So it's just a very hard thing, and it's a huge challenge, and that's why it's a special thing to be a part of.
Speaking of one of those Rookies of the Year, see Tyler Burton playing for the Spiders, could you envision that?
Oh, yeah.
Or Kalani Hunt, somebody along those lines, would you even explore the possibilities?
You know, I think the frustration of the coaches has been not so much that this happened at Baylor, because I think Baylor's a coach who's going to be in the Hall of Fame, national championship, a school with, greater aspirations than just athletics. So this is a pretty unique, important coach and school. But I think there's an understanding that schools are going to try to win, and the coaches are. I think what everybody was upset about is no one even knew that was a possibility. How could you fathom that was a possibility? And so, it's not something that 3 weeks ago we would think to call to compliance or to call to whomever and say, hey, could we sign this guy from the professional league? So, yeah, would we consider that? I don't think you can put anything out and say no, we're above that, because I just don't think that exists right now. And I think you have to try to get good players. The most important thing to have is good players, and older players usually make for even better players. And it's not the direction I would like, and it's not something I would vote for. But at the end of the day, you have to try to have good players.
Thank you.
Now that it's in the rearview mirror, pun intended, probably, the 5 days on the road, are there things that you will now look for that might show up with this team, either on the court to help win more games or just in general?
Yeah, I think that it was really fun. I mean, it was, you spend so much time because you're constantly meeting or getting changed or watching film or going to the gym or dinner. I think that they really do have a really great way about them, and I think that's something we really need to tap into. I think that when you have a team can get closer, and this is obviously a different now than it was 10 years ago, but can get closer, then you should have more willingness for a guy to tell another guy something harsh or urgent and not be worried about that. When you have a team that's a little bit disconnected or so different in age or what the focus is, then that's harder, because that maybe seems more confrontational. But you have to do that, and you certainly have to do that while you're playing basketball, because it's such a fast, fluid game. So, yeah, I think that would be the biggest thing is look, we can have fun and tease one another and do all those things. That's all just prologue to say, hey, you got to tell a guy he's not doing the right thing, or you need his help doing something, and that has to be taken with the spirit in which it's meant for. So hopefully we'll see more of that.
In Australia, so I'd like to ask you about being on break. And that is, you've been through this before where you've had a month between classes and obligations other than basketball. How can being together this long time, concentrating solely on hoops, help the team come together?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity for us to spend time off the court away from basketball, whereas we're in classes usually with other students, which is always great. But having this break, we get to spend more time together. Like when we had that road trip, for example, we spent every minute with each other. I think it's great for us building chemistry. And I think that's been really good for us to transfer that from off the court onto the court.
What's your take on scoring being up everywhere, especially in this league? You guys are averaging 84 and you're 5th or 6th in the league. It's a lot of points. It didn't used to be like this. You have a theory?
There's a lot of talent, a lot of talented players. I would say every night in this league, there's never a night where you're like, oh, I can kind of chill. Not that it should ever be like that, but, you're going to get exposed if you have that kind of mindset, So I think just there's a lot of talent in this league and a lot of great players, a lot of great coaches.
Speaking of scoring, how about second half scoring compared to first half scoring for you? Is there a reason that might have happened last 2 games?
Yeah, I would say I've just been being aggressive throughout the entire game, and even though I might not score in the first half, just keep playing that right way. Eventually, you're going to break through, and it just so happened to be in those games that it happened in the second half I wouldn't say it's any, shift in mindset or anything from first to second half. It's just I'm just trying to make the right play every time that I'm on the floor. And, in the first half it might be, getting my teammates open, running the plays, and they're doing a good job covering me. And then the second half it kind of opens up for myself a little bit more. So it depends game to game how that will work with the flow of the game. But, yeah, I don't think there's any exact reason as to why that's happened.
Thank you. How would you evaluate the other parts of your game right now? The assist to turnover ratio, kind of being the veteran, guy on this team.
Yeah, and it's something that I've definitely had to take a lot of pride in. I think it's probably my biggest area of growth from being a freshman to, all the way back at junior college to growing into the player that I am now is, taking care of the ball, being a primary guard. I remember there was times in junior college where I'd have games with, 5, 6, 7, 8 turnovers, you know what I mean? And JUCO's a little different. There's no fouls, all that. So you make excuses like that. But I would have games like that where it's like, now I do take a lot of pride in, especially playing at the next level up. You can't turn the ball over as a point guard. So I would say that aspect of my game has grown a lot and something that, I take a lot of pride in.
Still a small sample size, but where do you guys feel you are league-wide, knowing that you just won 2 league games on the road, coming back home for 2 more? Where's the progress?
Yeah, definitely happy with where we're at, but still a lot of work to do. Great to always get 2 road games regardless of the opponent, and I think we are itching to get back in the Robins Centre because we have a bad taste in our mouth from the last time we were there. In conference, you got to protect home court, and we didn't do that last time, so we got to make sure we get back right.
There have been very few Richmond basketball players who went to here. How do you think that might have benefited your development? Obviously, different than Division I basketball.
Yeah, I think that was huge for me. Coming in as a freshman, there's only freshmen and sophomores, so I was playing right away. Damn near playing 40 minutes a game. So for my development, I made a lot of mistakes, and I had a coach that gave me a lot of freedom to make those mistakes, and I grew. And I had a lot. I was like this, up and down. But I really think that having those downs made me into the player that I am now. So I think it was great. And then plus everything off the court that comes with it. The lifestyle is completely different. Extremely blessed to be at a school like this. We didn't have that when I was in junior college. Great people, great family and stuff, but resources aren't there, and that builds a lot of character, for the players that go there. So I think it's been really tremendous for me in my development.
And I think you told me one time that Texas Rio Grande was the only offer you got. Maybe one offer coming out of Jason.
Yeah, I committed basically right after I got that offer. So because junior college, I finally started being able to talk to schools, and I just couldn't get an offer, you know what I mean? And then as soon as that first one came in, I was like, not messing with them other guys who are, not offering me. So I just said, first team to bet on me, I'm going to go there.